Hello boys and girls, have you heard the story of the three little pigs? You have, haven't you? But have you heard the story of the two big pigs? Would you like to hear it? Alright. Over in this pigsty there are two big pigs that are owned by Farmer Giles. And there is Porky and Rufus. Now you notice they have a blue ribbon. That's because they were prize winners when they were young, but now they're not so young. And they aren't doing any more shows. But Farmer Giles loves them, and they're like his friends now. And they're allowed to run around the farm, and at the end each night they come back into the sty for protection. But otherwise they just run free. And one day they were running around. Farmer Giles was busy tending to the other animals, and a mean man passed by in a truck, and he saw these two pigs, and he saw the blue ribbons. He thought, they're pretty worth a pretty penny. And he got his two henchmen to round up the pigs. And Rufus and Porky were very trusting because they'd never had anything but love from Farmer Giles. And they went into this mean man's truck, and off they drove. When they got to the mean man's place, he had a big barn. It was actually very spacious, and it had some nice windows, and the two pigs weren't sure what to think, but they thought, okay. And Porky, he went into the barn first. There he is. And he suddenly realized he wasn't going to be able to get out, and he tried to get out. But the two henchmen held him down. He kept trying. They held him down, and then eventually they grabbed his ring and they pulled it and locked it inside the window so he couldn't get out. And Rufus, starting to think, what is going on? Rufus realized this may be not a nice place, and he was then taken by the two henchmen, and he tried again. He saw this exact same thing happening. There was trouble, there was action, but he was pulled back. They pulled him back, and eventually they got him. They grabbed him, and they got his ring caught. And once they had his ring, it was very hard because the ring was attached to the ribbon, and they were locked in. But because those pigs were quite strong, the mean man thought, I better lock them in with a rope to make sure they don't sneak away in the middle of the night. And he took a rope, and for the very first time, these two pigs were tied up. They did not like it. But there wasn't much they could do because the rope was too strong and they couldn't get away. So they went to sleep, and they were hoping it was going to be a big bad dream. Now, over at Farmer Giles' farm, he came to feed the pigs in the evening, and he noticed that Rufus and Porky were not there. He was very, very worried, but he thought, maybe those two pigs have just gone on a little adventure. And they were big pigs, and he thought they could look after themselves, so he didn't worry about it too much, just a little concern. Meanwhile, back at the mean man's farm, he built a sign to show his true intentions: pigs for sale. And later that evening, there was another farmer driving around, and he saw the sign and said, oh, I could do with a couple of pigs for my farm. So he went into the mean man and said, I'd like to buy those two pigs if I could. The mean man said, no problem, and he gave him a very good price. So he took down the sign because he had no more pigs to sell, and he gave the rope to the new farmer. But when the farmer pulled on one ribbon, there was no pig. He pulled on the second ribbon, there was no pig. When they looked in the windows, there were no pigs, and they turned it around. The pigs had gone. No one knows where they went. But we know, don't we? So back at Farmer Giles' farm, he woke up in the morning and he went over to feed the pigs, hoping they won't miss 2 meals in a row. And when he turned up at the sty, there were Rufus and Porky, just sitting there as usual, happy as clams, had their breakfast. But Farmer Giles noticed they didn't have their blue ribbons anymore. And he thought, that's strange, but he didn't want to pry. It was just a mystery to him. But we know what happened, don't we? And that is the story of the two big pigs.